Hi, I'm Todd Rollette, co-founder of MoveThatBlock.com. Joining me today is Carl Jacob, licensed engineer in the state of New York as well as Louisiana. He's agreed to answer a few questions today for our 5-minute crash course on engineering and architecture. Carl, thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having me, Todd.
A lot of times people will say, yeah, you need an architect, you need an engineer. What's the difference between an architect and an engineer?
They're both professionals, Todd. To do a building project, it involves a lot of professionals, not only architects and engineers. Architects typically concern themselves with the aesthetics of what a building would look like, as well as the space planning, whereas the engineers are more involved in the details on how the building is going to hold up structural-wise, the mechanical systems, the heating, ventilation, and air conditioning, as well as the electrical systems. But together, all the professionals need to work together for a building project.
So if I have a project, do I need to hire an architect and then hire an engineer separately? Can I just hire one, they can hire the other? How does that work?
Usually the architects and engineers collaborate. You could hire either the architect as the lead or an engineering firm as the lead. And again, because of the different professional disciplines that are involved, a building will involve all of them, both the engineers and the architects. But it's really up to the building owner who they elect as far as the building lead.
Okay. If I have a development project and I want to say I have a residential apartment complex I want to build, or I want to build a warehouse for my company, at what point should I involve an engineer and architect in the process? Should I wait till I have the property under contract, or what point is it best to have you involved?
That's a good question, Todd. Generally, it's wise to get the professionals involved early on when it comes to property and site selection. There's a number of criteria as far as permitting process, what's involved, different environmental aspects of a property. So early information can play a role in some key decisions that are made on whether to move forward with a property. And detailed investigation of the property before a commitment to purchase is always wise as far as doing a site assessment.
Okay. Now, I was looking at a building the other day, and somebody said, that building's not zoned that way. Can you explain to people what zoning is and how it applies?
Sure. Different municipalities and local governments have what they call zoning, where through their land use planning they decided that certain parts of their town should have, for instance, like commercial property or be classified for residential use. And they have what they call land use maps, and those to build something that is not in that particular zone requires a variance or a change in zoning. So for instance, if you wanted to build a commercial property in a zone that's residential, you would have to get that residential property classification changed to commercial, and there's usually a lengthy process involved in getting any kind of zoning change.
Okay. If I'm going to purchase a property and I need a survey, I've been told I need a survey, I need a site plan. What's a survey? What's a site plan? What's the difference?
Sure. A survey is done by a professional land surveyor who will research the boundary lines for a property and establish what the true boundary of the property is. A site plan then takes the measurements of the property and actually lays out, for instance, where the building would be in relation to the setbacks, parking requirements, any kind of stormwater requirements, but come up with a concept that would fit within the property that was defined by the land surveyor.
Now I'm building if I'm going to build out a restaurant, someone says, oh, you need a set of architectural plans. What are architectural plans? What do they involve? And can an engineer do them, or does it have to be an architect?
Well, again, it depends on who the lead is for the project, but a set of architectural plans would be the building floor plan and elevation views of the building. And again, if it was a complete set of building plans, it would involve the structural details of the building, the heating ventilation system, the plumbing systems, the civil site plans, the parking, the stormwater detention, the utility lines coming into the building. So it's going to depend on what the local government has as their requirements for building plans, but the complete set of building plans would be all those elements. A set of architectural plans may just be the concept drawings of just the floor plan and maybe some typical elevations to start with.
Okay, so somebody's ready to hire an engineer or an architect. What should they take into consideration to choose one, and how do you know a good one from a bad one?
Sure. Another good question, Todd. basically, professionals like to be selected on qualifications. That is, on the basis of past projects that they've done, the credentials of their staff, their special certifications that they may possess, and their reputation with different clients that they've worked with. So it's always good to research and ask a firm for a statement of qualifications, and any reputable firm would be able to provide that type of information. And from that, you can select among several firms and decide the one that's most compatible with the needs that you have.
Great. Last question. It's my first meeting with an engineer and architect. What can I expect in that first meeting? What do I need to bring with me? And what questions should I ask?
Mm-hmm. Sure. Well, basically, again, it boils down to having a comfort level with the firm that you've selected, and they're trying to understand the scope that you want done, as well as you relay the message of what you're trying to do. So basically, start off with your ideas on the project, basically a simple, perhaps site plan or scheme for your building, and then just have an open dialogue with them. At that point, there's no commitment from either party to move forward, but again, both sides are trying to understand what the true scope of the project is, and from there, work together in a partnership, and the project will evolve.
Great. Thank you for joining us today. We appreciate it.
Well, thanks for having me.